The internet. They call it the internet. What it is a very large WAN, as we learned in the last lesson. So, kind of how it works in probably the simplest way. The internet is a collection of people with computers and servers. So you can have personal computers, you can have laptops, you could be a corporation operating a large server somewhere. These are all people connected to the internet. Now, part of that, in order to keep the internet like it is, there is something called a domain name server. Now, that domain name server assigns addresses like google.com or waltdisneyworld.com or cristobalisd.org. These are all assigned names in the DNS book. So that DNS book gives names, and a lot of times it'll give those names to an internet service provider. This is someone who's hooked in, and we're not going to go into the tier system, but it's hooked in and can provide access to the larger internet infrastructure. So this one might be snapinternet.com. So snapinternet.com gets a name. It sets up a lot of hardware and a lot of servers of its own, and it links in to the larger internet providers or large internet systems throughout, and they all interconnect. And it sells subscriptions to itself, and it sells those to us. So this is us down here. We've either got a personal computer, we might be hooking up with a laptop. Who knows what we're doing, but we're hooking it up. Now, when I first started to hook up to the internet, you got on the phone, a phone modem, and it made a lovely sound. And you were excited because you were on the internet. That's a dial up connection. They still exist. A lot of places are so remote that getting internet cabling or fiber or anything like that is just too expensive. But the telephone lines are pretty much run everywhere. Um, there are a couple ways dial up. So dial up, there's another system called ISDN, and it uses those same phone lines, but instead of working right through the telephone, it kind of sits on top of those phone lines, and it's a little faster than just regular phone lines. Nowadays, what we do is we usually do what's called broadband. So our connection from here to our internet service provider is usually through some kind of broadband connection. It could be DSL, which is kind of heading out. It could be cable, which is very popular. I myself have cable internet. It could be fiber. Out in Austin, they can hook into Google Fiber. I mean, it's fast. They could be wireless. You could be sitting on your laptop hooking wireless to your internet provider. Uh, it's a little less. You can use satellite. Satellite speeds are not awesome, comparatively speaking, but nowadays you can get like 3 megabytes per second out of a satellite feed, which is decent enough to do anything you need to do wherever you're at. You can also do something that's coming out called BPL, which means they're using the actual electricity system to send internet out over that system. And that's a new technology. It's not seen much everywhere, but we've got electrical wires running everywhere. So that shows real promise. All right, so what happens? You get on your computer pulls up your ISP, and you're connected on the internet. Looks good. Now that goes into what we call the cloud. The cloud is not an actual thing. The term cloud is more a description of a ton of servers, a ton of computers, a ton of ISPs, a ton of other things that are all wired together through various means, and you can access that. And the way you do that is you do an IP address. So everything out there that transmits or receives has an address specific to it. It's made up of 4 parts. It's up to 3 numbers in the first place, 3 numbers in the second place, 3 numbers third, 3 numbers fourth, but it can be 1, 2, or 3 in each of those. The first 3 define specifically your local area network. And then that last one is specific within that area network. So, like at the high school where we have a ton, there are a lot of IP addresses with a bunch. So you can get out and you can actually figure out an IP address, and not like the movies, but you can figure out an IP address to the local area network it's connected to. So it goes into this cloud. What you're really doing when you work in the cloud is you're saving your stuff on other people's servers. So these other people are serving you. Your information is being stored on their servers and you're accessing their servers. If you go into a cloud application like Google Docs, what you're actually doing is accessing Google servers. You're modifying the document and then you're bringing it back all back to you. So you're kind of connected through that interconnection of various connections, and there's a lot um, in making that work. Uh, there is some other things that we're going to talk about in this lesson you should know about. In your local area network, you really need something called a firewall. A firewall blocks people or blocks internet sites from accessing or being accessed by your network. And things like just sites you definitely don't want, whether it's bad guys or whether it's material you don't want to see. You can set up a firewall that sits right between you and the ISP and blocks all that traffic coming in and out. You can also set up a proxy server. A proxy server is creating a server, but it's more a server in the Ethernet. And it works to keep, again, to keep your data safe from people who might be trying to access your computer. And that works a little different that way.